Okay. Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wa alihi wa ashabi ajma'in. So last week we talked a little bit in some form of depth about the impurities of animal skin, right? And we saw that there's a difference of opinion, right, guys? We showed how some of the scholars mentioned that there's differences of opinion, and yet they took the same knowledge, but they arrived at different conclusions. So we respect them completely because they tried their best. Obviously, one of them is going to be correct. We tried to follow the one our heart is telling us is the most correct based on the evidence. If your heart's telling you something else, then you follow that. But, don't forget your key thing is you will stand in front of Allah and you'll answer why you did or did not do some particular thing. One of the safest things you can do, though, if there are two differing opinions between scholars, you could follow the best advice of the Prophet ﷺ, which he said, if there are doubtful matters, it's better to put those aside. It's better to put those matters to the side. And so take the safer opinion, right? So unless we're literally down to pig skin being the only leather available on earth, and that be the only clothing we have left on earth, I think we can safely move that to the side and purchase other products, right? But anyhow, like I said, maybe you got your favorite purse or something, or shoes, I don't know. Anyhow, you know how you could tell that some of the jackets are porous? Yeah, huh?
They have, it's usually the dots inside, right?
So they all have the dots, but the pores on a pig are larger. Interesting.
What do you mean?
They're you know how the hairs on the boar or another animal like a lamb or something, you'll find on the boar that they look like holes. Yeah, that's how you could kind of tell. And so you look at that guy, you can kind of see it, you can kind of move away. The camel doesn't have that. The lamb doesn't have that. Goat doesn't have that. You'll see that pretty interesting, right? But anyhow, that is how you can tell. And also you could just read the tag. I mean, that's another way. But anyhow, so now let's continue. Allah Azza mentioned in Surah Ali Imran in verse 145, He said, "Oh, damin masfuha," that it's rijsun. This word rijsun, the scholars debated about it. Is it a spiritual impurity or is it actually just impure? And it seems that and I don't want to get into that whole discussion because, to be honest with you, if we get into there, that'll take up this whole topic. Because I want to tell you guys, right, we're trying our best to complete as much as we can by the end of this semester. So one thing you want to keep in mind is I'm telling you that if there's a very detailed difference of opinion, you could kind of write that down and look it up on your own. But it seems the one that I like to stick with is that it is impure. It is impure itself. It's because Allah mentioned that, and some of my teachers also follow that same opinion. But nonetheless, there are arguments to both sides. And if you really, really want to know, we can dedicate this whole session to it. But nonetheless, so Allah Azza said, "Oh, damin masfuha." So the blood of slaughtered animal, damin masfuha, ifsah, something that's being spread. So something interesting about that. Now you find a lot of Muslims, they always order their burgers well done. They burn that sucker to the crisp. I feel bad for those guys. You're eating bricks and wood. That's not what this ayah is talking about, just so you all know. The damin masfuha is, how many people ever slaughtered an animal by hand here? You did? Here in this country? That's good. You keep up the sunnah. It's nice to do that. You have a lot more respect for the animals, by the way, too, if you do that, right? Nonetheless, what?
I have a question. Can I ask real quick?
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if this is true, but I do want to know if it's true. I searched up online and they said that Prophet when he would shed a tear for the animal. I heard it.
Not he. There was a companion that came to the Prophet ﷺ and he said, "I'm sad when I slaughtered the animal." He said, "You're even rewarded for that. You're even rewarded for doing that." Yani the fact that when I just slaughtered a lamb 2 weeks ago for my daughter's, aqiqah, sunnah is that you do that on the 7th day. A lot of people forget that, but nonetheless, I did feel bad. It was a cute little lamb, but you got, so anyhow, and we ask Allah that we're rewarded for that, right? So that when you slaughter, you'll notice that we slaughter by the neck, right? And, for at least cows, sheep, and goat, and chicken, that's what dhabh is. But nonetheless, when that happens, there's a gushing blood that comes out. In some cultures, that's a delicacy. I don't know if you know that. If you go to Italy, they actually, I think this is pure torture, but hey, it depends who you ask. They hang the animal upside down. They stab its neck with a little incision, and they hang it upside down. And then it leaks the blood from the jugular here, or from wherever that main artery is, and it just leaks into a bucket underneath it. And they make all sorts of stuff, Jell-O and all sorts of weird stuff out of that blood, by the way, out of that. And it takes a day for the thing to die or something like that. Can you imagine that? You think that's merciful? I don't know. They say that's good. It doesn't seem good to me. I mean, if I'm going out, I want to go out quick. That's what everybody tells you. This guy's hung upside down, blood to his brains, and I don't know what's going on with him. But anyhow, that blood is haram. That blood we are not allowed to touch. And we're not allowed to eat it either. Now, what about the blood that stays in the animal between the meat, between the muscles, when you cook it? Some people say, I like my burger medium. You open it up, break it in half, you still see some blood in there, right? Well, is that haram? The answer is no. Aisha radiallahu anha said we used to cook the meat, and while we would eat it, there would still be blood in the meat, and we would eat it. She specifically answered that for you. You don't need any more research than that. So yes, for those folks who like it medium, who like it rare, just let it touch the fire and give me it. Yeah, no problem. Anybody Lebanese here? They have a food. It's called kibbaliya. They actually get minced meat. They grind it up and then they soak it with so many spices. Ton of spices, by the way. Maybe the weight of the meat. I don't know. I'm making that up. I don't know. But then they spread it out and you eat it just like that, by the way. Right? Those guys will survive. Right? They know how to do it. We should learn from them. At least eat it once. I tried it once. It's okay. So anyhow, then the next we go to is the human urine and feces. This is also najis. Human urine and feces. And except of a suckling baby boy, it's not najis, because that's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. But, so if you have, and that's what you have to be careful, folks. The Rasul ﷺ said, he said, the people from my ummah, the Muslims from my ummah that will get the punishment of the grave or hellfire are two. He said, one are the ones who don't guard between their privates, yani when they use the bathroom. He said, when they don't guard themselves when they're using the bathroom. The scholar said, what does that mean? There's two opinions about what that means. Either while you're urinating, the splashing of the urine comes on your clothes, right? Or number two, that you don't guard your private parts properly while you're using the restroom, right? And this will be affecting the guys on the second part more than the girls, right? But why did it affect everybody at one point? Because there was no such thing as a bathroom in a location indoor. It was always out there. It was always outside. When you needed to use the bathroom, it's a different lifestyle, guys. You had to walk away from everyone, and then you found the section, right? And then you just you went there, and there's a whole thing about how you clean yourself. There's a whole chapter in that as well. We're skipping that chapter in fiqh, by the way. How you clean yourself the 3 times, istinja, istijmar. Actually, I think we may be covering a little bit but anyhow, right? So nonetheless, that's najis. You have to clean that off. And then you don't go crazy, because there's some guys I know that I went to college with that they always had pants in their backpack. What's up with that? I didn't know what he was doing. And he takes his pants off every time he wants to pray. He switches these jogging pants. And I said, what are you doing? He said, well, the other one, they're splashing, there's all this stuff. No. I'm telling you, no. That's not what the Prophet ﷺ did. After you clean yourself down there, he said, if you're one of those people who are like OCD about stuff, after you wash yourself maximum 3 times, right? We're not talking about if there's still nasty stuff, you do it again, you keep cleaning. But after you wash, he said you could take water and you could just sprinkle it on your clothes and put your clothes on, so that nothing plays with your mind. So there's nothing like you're thinking that it's anything najis in there. And then if anything did come on your clothes, guys, it's very simple. You just take some water and clean it off. That's it. Right? You don't want to go all nuts now, Because some people are doing that. I don't know why. All right. Anyhow, and then pork is the next topic that Rasul Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned. He said, "Oh, لحم خنزير فإنه رجس." That Allah Azza wa Jal said that the meat of the pork is also rijs, is also, some scholars said the word rijs not just means that it's impure such as najis, but there's another level of spiritual impurity from it as well. So you're also negatively affecting your relationship with Allah when you deal with that stuff. Okay, so obviously anybody touch ham, right? Or something like that. And that's why if you plan on marrying Ahl al-Kitab, right? That girlfriend, you think she's going to, you're going to marry her, so you shouldn't have her as a girlfriend. And then number two, if you do wind up marrying her, they eat pork. Then what? What are you going to do there? That's what she follows. You got to let her eat her pork. But you gotta wash the dishes in a certain way. We're going to cover that. But anyhow, and so if it touches the utensils, you have to wash it. Yeah.
How does that go about restaurants? Because restaurants, they usually use utensils.
Yeah, so the scholars mentioned about that, and that's why you'll find a lot of scholars, they will not eat at restaurants that serve alcohol or pork. You find a lot of scholars like that. A lot of my teachers are like that. The ones that you're going to find that are just whoopsie-daisy are the Shafi'i ones, right? They're just like, put it on the plate, here we go. Here's the thing, you got to remember, the level of cleaning that they do at the commercial level, that they blast that plate through in the dishwasher, there's nothing left on that, right? So that's why you can say, alhamdulillah, it's clean from the remnants of that. If you're somebody who's Maliki, they're even more lax than those guys. They're a little bit of remnants, they think it's insignificant. I'm serious, not even kidding. If you see, you've been to Subway, they sit there, they slap the little turkey, processed turkey on your thing, and then they give you the guy before you took processed ham, he slapped that on, he's using the same gloves. Obviously, we all know, can you please change your gloves? It makes you feel cozy inside. What about the knife? What about the other thing? What about what you didn't see before you came to the store? You don't know what's going on. But anyhow, let's say you did that, you kept the same gloves. That's nasty. There's remnants of the ham on there. And he's taking now your turkey, he's putting it on your little sub. According to the Maliki scholars, it's too insignificant to care. They don't find that a problem, by the way. You see? That they don't find that a problem at all. And by the way, a lot of my teachers don't find that as an issue at all. You find it disgusting maybe just because we're used to that. It's more of, I feel, a cultural thing at that point. Because if you talk to a revert or a convert who used to eat ham and they stop, whatever, ham's ham, they don't see it as, but for us, for those who were born and were raised as Muslims, you have like an anxiety against it of some sort. Next, blood of menstruation, that is also najis. That blood of menstruation, that is najis. Other things as well, sperm or anything that exits from the body. In this case, you have to wipe that off. You have to get it off. Sperm has an exception when it's dry. FYI. Aisha radiallahu anha. Now, you might find this weird, not whatever, I don't care. But Aisha radiallahu anha, she said, I used to, sometimes there would be dry remnants of sperm on the Prophet ﷺ's clothes. She said, I used to clean it off with my nail. Like she used to just clean it all off. And the Prophet ﷺ didn't say you couldn't pray in those clothes. So that's the one exception. But everything else that comes out of the body as a rule of thumb would be najis. And you have to clean it off. You would have to clean that off. Okay. Let's see. Vomit. You know the vomit that comes out? That is also najis. Got to clean that up very well. Alcohol. Alcohol is another one. That it's also najis. So for those of you who work in those stores or anything like that, in ShopRite or I think we're boycotting ShopRite. It's on the BDS list. But anyhow, Aldi's, I don't think they sell liquor. I don't know. Pathmark, what else is out there these days? Stop and Shop. Okay, just don't load up those shelves. Yeah.
Liquor, I mean, by alcohol, what do you mean? So, I know, I'm not sure actually. Rubbing alcohol.
No, that's not the same.
Okay, so what is alcohol?
That's ethanol.
Okay.
very different. Alcohol we're talking about is, when we're talking about something that is liquor, khamr, it's something that will cloud the mind. So it is alcohol, heroin. These are all falling under these things that what cloud the mind's judgment, right? And that's what you have to remember. But nonetheless, the default of it is the drink. The default of it is the drink. The saliva of pigs and dogs, nijis. But if you don't get the saliva of the dog on you and you go and you pet a dog, you don't have to go and wash your hands or anything like that. It's if his saliva got on you that you have to clean it up. Okay? All right, good. And you didn't lose your wudu, by the way. A lot of people freak out about that. Regardless, either one. You just, if his saliva touched you or your clothes, you wash that part off. Yeah. Yeah. That's it. You don't even need to do that. No, you just get some cloth, some water, damp it. You make sure that it's all washed off. Just that section, nice and clean. Right? They didn't have washing machines back there. They didn't put on a low load quickly. It's not how it worked. Yeah, right. You got to remember, our religion, alhamdulillah, very, very easy going religion. You'll find we complicate it. You want to know the truth? We make it very complicated. Okay. Human saliva. Is human saliva impure?
No.
No. What's your evidence? Because we're talking about saliva here. You said, well, we're not dogs and pigs. No. Well, what you could say is that after eating the Prophet ﷺ, with Aisha reported, she said, after I would be eating, the Prophet ﷺ would take a bite, from the meat that she was eating. He specifically, such a gentleman, he specifically looked for the area that she bit and eat from that area. So how much he cared about her. When he would drink from her cup, when she would be drinking, he would turn to the area that he knew she drank from, and he would go to that area. That's all cozy. You're going to go do that with your wife. She's going to tell you disgusting. But anyhow, what are you doing? That's my cup. Get your own. The first year that happens. But the Prophet ﷺ was on his honeymoon throughout his whole marriage. Us, I don't know, it like wears out after months or something. I don't know, guys. It's fading out these days. Yeah, there's programs I think will help you all out. All right, you'll sign up for them. All right. Anyhow, urine and dung of animals. The Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned about sheep in particular. He said about the praying in the sheep's pens, and he said, pray in them, for they are a blessing. Now, Ibn al-Mundhir, rahimahullah, he said, everyone whom we acquired ilm from, amongst the ulama, have unanimously agreed that it is permissible to pray in the sheep's pen, the area that they're raised. He said, aside from Ash-Shafi'i, rahimahullah, who he said, he stipulated that it be free from dung and urine. Free from dung and urine. Because by default these things are not, are not pure. They're impure, right? And what's the evidence? The Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was praying, and he was leading the Sahaba in prayer, and so Jibreel comes to him while he's in his prayer, and he says to him to remove your footwear because you have some something nijis on it, like dung, or you're walking around sometimes, you step on it and realize it. So while in the middle of his prayer, he takes his shoes off, his footwear, his sandals, pushes them off and puts them to the side. You want to know why we as Muslims have to understand how the Sahaba understood the religion and understand what they put in practice? You want to know why that's so important? Because look how much they adhered to the Prophet ﷺ. Every action he did. After the Prophet ﷺ finished his prayer, he turned around. Do you know what he found? All of the companions took their footwear off and put it to the side. Every one of them. Because the hadith of the Rasul ﷺ, he said, "Sallu kama ra'awtuni usalli." He said, pray as you see me pray. Pray as you see me pray. So they thought this was a move in prayer now. What? This rak'ah, we got to take shoes off. That's what they did. You guys, that's why we say, what did the Sahaba do? Right? Did they put lights in Ramadan? It's the latest thing I'm getting now. No, where? Yeah, get the fanus. Put that around. No, they didn't do that. They didn't, guys. There's a lot of weird things. They didn't put a Christmas tree up because it was pretty. They didn't do that. It was there. It was there. That came from a pagan religion. You see, you got to understand, what did the Sahaba do? First question you ask is, did this exist at their time? Question mark. Yes, it did. Did they do it? How did they do it? How did they react? How did they understand it? So the Prophet ﷺ said, why'd you do that? They said, Ya Rasulullah, we saw you take them off. He said, yeah, that's because Jibreel came to me in prayer and he said, I had some impurity on the bottom of my sandals. He said to take it off and I took it off. A lot of things, a lot of lessons we get just from that hadith. Number one, for a mom who's carrying a child with a diaper, poops on himself, can you continue prayer? Answer is yes. Wow, see, because the Prophet, it didn't invalidate your prayer. You caught that? You see, there's a lot of things that come from that. Also, if that also shows you he didn't lose his wudu, guys. Yeah, who was asking back there? You caught that part? He didn't say, oh, the dog poop, there's my wudu, gotta go make wudu. Did he do that? He didn't do that. He removed the najis part to the side and he continued. Caught that? Right? Okay, good. You see, there's a lot you can learn. This is why the ulama are ulama. Because they dissect every part of it as much as they can. All right, let's see. Are we good on time? Yeah, alhamdulillah. So, how far do you need to go to discover impurities in your day-to-day life, regarding making wudu, eating or sleeping, praying, eating, things like that? The default, I want to make sure you all are aware of this. The default is you do not ask. He says, what are you talking about? All right, let me give you an example. So let's say you've seen some water, or this happened at the time of Umar ibn al-Khattab, just to show you where the evidence comes from. He was with Amr ibn al-As and they were on a journey. And as they came across this water, an area of water, a body of water, Amr, or one of the companions that were with Umar ibn al-Khattab, asked the owner of the land. They said, hey, do wild beasts drink from this water? Before the owner could answer, Umar radiallahu anhu said, don't answer him. He said, don't answer him. This is those things that, why are you making life hard on yourself? The default is, what did we talk about? Large body of water, looks good to me, let's go ahead and make wudu. Let's drink from it. Umar radiallahu anhu said, it's a body of water. Wild beasts drink from it, humans drink after. They'll drink here, they drink there. Stop making things complicated, right? Where you will find the most complication on the face of this planet is with pork. You'll find this is the biggest thing. Everybody wants to know, do they cook on the same grill? Do they do this? Do they do that? This is not the topic this is not the discussion we're going to have here, but I will say that if you want to take the safer route and move away from that, it's good for you. If you're like, hey, I'm ordering the chicken, and I'm ordering the chicken. That is what it is. Just no bacon on my chicken. I'm okay with that. You can go that route. But again, do not make life complicated for yourself, right? Whatever you see in front of you, don't make it complicated by asking so many thousands of questions. But if you've seen it though, let's say you're right here and the grill's right there behind the guy, and you're saying, hey, I'll take 2 cheeseburgers, and then he accidentally throws bacon on it. And he says, oh, I didn't want bacon. He says, oh yeah, no problem. He just takes it off. That's a problem, That's not good. According to the Malikis, it's fine, but we wouldn't do that by default. You shouldn't. Yeah.
So is that expression of him saying, don't answer for that, apply to every other aspect in our religion, or just, food?
No, every aspect. Even some people some people, they get their money in a haram way, unfortunately. They sell lottery tickets, they sell alcohol, they sell e-cigs, they sell, all sorts of garbage. And so then you have to say, all of that money is haram money. All of that money is haram money. You should not try to benefit from it at all. Zero. But the default, if you're invited to your Muslim brother's house, or he's taking you out, You don't sit there and do ask him for his W-2 and his accountant's phone number and how much money did you make from here? How much liquor do you sell a month? No. This is not how we do it. By default, this is a Muslim. He invited you, you invite him, this is no problem, right? You don't do that. You don't sit there, and by the way, for you guys who absolutely believe that the tasmiyah is required in slaughtering for it to be dhabiha, then it's the same thing. I know a lot of guys who they are afraid or they get anxiety to go to another brother's house who they know that he just buys his meat from, I don't know, from Aldi's. They're all, I don't know. You're not allowed to ask him, brother, is this dhabiha? You can't. If you're in his house as a Muslim, you're not allowed to ask him. You eat whatever he gave you, and it is halal for you. I'm serious, by the way. You can't do that. That's not allowed. You have a question?
That's if you're in a Muslim house, right?
Yes. Well, yeah, of course, man. You're gonna go to, your non-Muslim's house, And by the way, that gets into a whole other discussion. Yeah.
I remember in a previous class, someone had asked you about if there's the leather has pig meat in it or something, and you had said not knowing is not an excuse.
If what has what?
So basically somebody had asked something along the lines of if there was a certain animal that made up the leather in your shoe or something.
Yeah.
And if that's halal for you to wear, and then you had answered, but basically what I'm trying to say is you had answered saying not knowing is not an excuse.
Correct.
So how do you consolidate that with what you're saying now, which is don't ask too many questions?
Good. Because one, you answered it yourself. Is an individual, you're dealing with yourself. The other one, you're dealing with the people. So when you decide to buy a pair of shoes, no one else is affected except you. When you decide to buy a purse or a jacket, no one else is affected except you. When you go to somebody's house and you're going to sit there and question them, where'd you get the chicken? Where'd you get the drumsticks? These wings are really good. There's no way they're halal. When you start saying that, you're not the investigator. You're now dealing with the mu'amalat. You're dealing with people, right? There's different levels. Remember the Venn diagram? We said you got to imagine it. We've got a board over here. We got a board. I should use it. So there's personal, there's the group level, and then there's the community, the whole ummah as a whole, right? So when you're dealing with yourself, the ignorance is not an excuse. When you're opening a business, that's not an excuse. But let's say you went and partnered with somebody. You went and partnered with a Jewish man. You went and partnered with a Muslim man. You went and partnered with a Christian man. Or, partner, regardless, girl, whatever. You don't sit there and say, hey, I need to see your finances. Be smart, but you don't do that. You don't say, hey, do you earn all your halal from A, B, C, D? No. This is a halal business we're investing in. My 50% is 50 grand. Your 50% is 50 grand, you see? You don't sit there and question that. But in what you're involved in, if you invited these people, you make sure you do the right thing at the individual level. But we don't sit there and question everybody around us.
So can I ask a follow-up?
Yeah.
So even if the person that's for example, if you're investing in a business with another Muslim, right? Even if they are doing, their money is not halal, and with whatever they're maybe not investing in halal stocks or something, and you're going to consume whatever comes out of that money that's not halal.
How are you consuming it? Is he giving it to you?
Yeah, if so they're investing in that business with that money.
Yeah, but that's not you consuming. Never forget. Yeah, that's an investment. Transactions are different. We judge the transaction, not the intention. I see where you're going with it, right? But you have to remember, only in one case the scholar said you're not allowed to take money that if you know it's stolen. That's the only case. So if you know that the partner you came to partner with went and robbed the bank for 50 grand, you're not allowed to invest with them. Other than that, that's not your job. The Rasul ﷺ dealt with the Jewish people all the time in business. And they dealt with riba, well known that they dealt with riba. That's the reason they got rid of Isa, by the way. You see, a lot of people don't know that. Because when Isa said that you have to stop the riba, he says, whoa, pump the brakes, pal. Today, it's no different. If you come to this country, you could do anything you want. You could worship the devil now. There's a Luciferian church. You can worship the devil if you want. But you got to pay your taxes. That's one thing. You pay your taxes, you worship the devil, no problem. You paid your taxes, yeah, okay, go you and Lucifer, go to hell. I don't care. That's where you're going. But you see, that's what they don't care. The same thing was at that time, right? So you have to remember the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he dealt with those people who had different forms of those incomes. But he didn't say, pass it over. Where'd you get this? Where'd you get that? That's not our job. So the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam did it. See what we're saying? And that's how we come to it. But where the ignorance is not an excuse is at the individual level. You went to invest in the stock market. You are responsible for knowing what is halal and haram. You are responsible for knowing which the difference between call and put contracts to stay away from certain ones. You're responsible for that. It's not Fidelity who has to teach you that. You see? So remember, ask yourself the following as a litmus test. And who's affected by this? Me. I'm responsible. When I'm going to invite, and I'm invited to one of the brothers' houses, we're affected. It's not my job to investigate where he got it from. You assume the best. That's what a Muslim does. They assume the best, that they did what they're supposed to do. That makes sense?
Yeah. So is that like the same thing? Like
Just one second, because they had their hands up on the back. Yeah?
Yeah, I have a question. So, like, it's in a Muslim household, what if it's like a halal restaurant, and you want to, like, investigate whether or not their chicken is a vegan or something like that? Is that
Yeah.
also...
So, let me say this. You guys are the only ones who do that, by the way. You know, if it's the biharna and you want the certificate and all that. You know, you could print the certificate online. It's a joke. But nonetheless, let's put that to the side. The answer is, if you're really, really concerned about it, there's nothing wrong with asking that. Because why? You're the one purchasing it. You have the right to know. You do. You do have the right to know, is this slaughtered according to, the Hanafi opinion, etc. The reason I don't like to call it dhabiha is a very particular reason, by the way, because I believe that the way I eat is also dhabiha. I don't say dhabiha or non-dhabiha, because then I'm not eating, you see, something that is halal. I just believe that both are dhabiha, it's just we have a different definition of it. But nonetheless, I know what you're saying. That's why some scholars, they make a joke, like one of my teachers would say capital Z or lowercase z, But anyhow, yes, you still have the right to ask and call. You still do. Even though you can safely assume that he's a Muslim, at the end of the day, if he's Arabic, he's on the other side, obviously. He's got to get you a certificate so you can feel comfortable. Yeah. I can't hear you. What? When you were in high school, this is going to be fun.
They would not say it's a halal, like certified halal. But I know some people would still eat it because they're like, it's chicken, it's not pork, it's not beef.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, listen, if you guys want, next semester we'll cover food. Because I tell you right now, we won't finish. There's no way. That topic alone needs a semester, which is a lot of stuff involved in it. But, yeah, I'm not even going to get into it. There's no way I could do justice to that with what time we have left. At the end of the day, if you believe, it comes down to the tasmiyah, saying Bismillah before slaughtering the animal. If you believe that it is required, then you wholeheartedly keep doing your due diligence. You ask, you don't eat, where you don't see that it's slaughtered by a Muslim. And you keep that route, and you eat the kosher as well if you want to do that. But, I personally follow the Shafi'i opinion here. But again, I'm not going to get into that whole topic. But yeah.
So when it comes to, you said, it's a personal matter, right? Well, I want to shift to something in the sense of business. How far do you go to find out if something is haram or halal? Because, the thing is, nowadays, business transactions are way more complicated than they were back then. Now there's, for instance, a percentage of it that may, let's say, for instance, you needed to change a name. These are just examples. You need to change a name, it's not an authentic name. Or there's little stuff that nowadays they go by very with ease, little small, I guess what you would say loopholes, stuff like that. Would the small percentage of doing any action that would be considered tricking?
So,
what's the percentage of something, like an action that's committed within a business, that would mean the whole income is?
So I asked the Dr. Salah Hassawi this question because somebody wrote a research paper mentioning the percentage a third. I challenged that, and I said we don't have anything from the Prophet ﷺ mentioning that if there's a certain amount that is allowed, right? And so there is no such percentage.
Yes, I understand, but I'm saying in the sense of like haram income. There's a difference between something being haram and then
Mixed.
income being haram.
Yeah, and there is no percentage. There just isn't. There are some guidelines that you can Google this. IOFI, they created a standard. It's very technical. If you're a finance guy, it'll make some sense, but you have to have a Sharia background to understand what they're mentioning, because a lot of it will just be over your head. And that's why I recommend most people that they invest in halal mutual funds when they invest their money, so that there is an entire certified board who is in compliance with those standards, and they're investing your money, and they're buying those stocks for you on your behalf. And believe it or not, it's the least path of resistance. I mean, the least risky type of investment from a financial point of view. Mutual funds, and there's a lot of halal ones, and there's a lot more popping up. Halal ETFs, right? No difference. Anyhow, it's just a mutual fund forces you to purchase and sell at the end of and beginning of a business day. ETFs is on the spot trading, but yeah. Yeah, there's 2 apps, that I even use here and there. It's a good guide. It's a good guideline for you. It's called Islamically, and another one called Zoya, Zoya. Okay, all right. So next week, inshallah, we'll cover purification and the methods that we purify, purifying from physical impurities and purifying a person who's in a state of ritual impurity. Well, we'll cover on how to clean your plates and utensils. We'll cover about how the ground, the ard, cleans as well. We'll cover about shoes. Let's see, and we'll also mention a little bit about the leather jackets that we mentioned there, and then we'll also cover the istinja. Yeah, we are covering that istinja and istijmar, which is dry cleansing after you use the bathroom, and then using water. There's a lot about that. أقول قولي هذا استغفر الله لكم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. Seems like